विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान द्वारा आयोजित राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 से संबंधित इंटरव्यू सीरीज में आप सभी का स्वागत है। वी आर थैंकफुल टू माननीय प्रकाश जी, ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान, एंड माननीय रघुनंदन जी, जॉइंट ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान, फॉर इनिशिएटिंग डायलॉग एंड डिस्कशन ऑन वेरियस एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ एनईपी. Today we are going to discuss the provisions of NEP and Indian textbooks. इस कड़ी में आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं प्रोफेसर सुधेंदु मुखर्जी, मेंबर इंडियन काउंसिल ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल रिसर्च. Professor Mukherjee is a very famous historian. He has vast experience of teaching history at University of Delhi. He has written several books and articles. You are most welcome, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you so much, Dr. Anish, for inviting me to this meeting. I'm very happy and nice to meet your team also, Professor Nagalingam.
This interview will be moderated by Dr. Nagalingam M.
Yeah.
Dr. Nagalingam is assistant professor in the Department of Social Work at Indira Gandhi National Tribal University.
Oh, social work. That's very good. Interesting.
So over to you, Nagalingam ji.
धन्यवाद डॉक्टर अनिश जी.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Professor ji. Thank you very much for your time. So we are going to start the interview.
Surely.
Sir, I would like to start with this question. What is the role of ICHR, that is Indian Council on Historical Research, in social science research?
No, this
what
is
the role of ICHR in
ICHR?
ICHR in social science, ICHR research, and what significant milestones are reached by ICHR so far?
Yes. Look, let me first explain what is the jurisdiction of ICHR. This only deals with history, only one discipline. But textbooks are not controlled by us. Textbooks in history are the responsibility of NCERT. Then university education, syllabus, appointment of teachers, various rules, regulations are controlled by the University Grant Commission. So Indian Council of Historical Research is only to promote historical studies at a higher level. Research, mainly research, promotion, activity, and advise the government from time to time if the government seeks advice. So we promote historical studies, research by providing grants. We have a journal also, called Indian Historical Review, which publishes articles, book reviews, things like that. We organize seminars also. We help institutions all over India, various levels, small organizations, universities, colleges, any registered academic body to organize seminars 2-3 days. We give sufficient money also to cover this, to invite speakers, to get it published, things like that. Our major academic job is to provide research, to appoint research fellows also, various levels, junior, at PhD level we offer. Those who are registered PhD who can't get any scholarship, we provide them money. Then postdoctoral level, various levels of it. Then national fellows also for very senior scholars, so they can carry on their work. Now another important thing is research project, which are either done by individuals or by ICHR itself. So that is the most prestigious work of the ICHR, called the special project. It involves a big team, and it can work on any aspect of Indian history, ancient history, early history, medieval history, modern history, freedom movement, economic history, social history. Vast. So this is very important. And then we have publication unit also. We have our own publications. So people apply to us for funding for publication. A lot of scholars apply to us for funding. And so we give them some grant so that they can, with this money, they can approach the publisher. So in the process, the book will get published. And then we also provide fund for collecting materials abroad. Because in history, as you know, especially modern period, medieval period, lots of important records, official records, are in British archives, because England ruled India for 200 years. And England, whatever you say, English were very good at writing reports and books. So Britain has many important documents, administration, reports by officials at local level, governors, then Governor General, Secretary of State, the newspapers in England, which are very important, all kinds of things, official documents, private papers. And because a lot of people in English offices who worked in India, they went back home, England, and they carried their diaries with them. And all over the world, they ruled almost 1/4 of the globe. They ruled. So if you are working on South Africa, also you can get some reports on that South Africa from the British archives. India, of course, is very full of it. Then rare books also, books which are not available in India, which were supposed banned by the British, or which are available. They have been kept very well preserved. This is one good thing I can tell you. I mean, one should mind, you are all patriotic Indians, but the maintenance of records in England is excellent. Excellent record. And it's all over. London itself, a lot of depositories are there called the India Office Library, the Public Record Office, and there are important libraries in Manchester, Birmingham, almost all over, every major city, Edinburgh, Dublin, wherever you go. So concerning India, there are lots of records are there. So we give money for that also. Suppose a scholar is working on some problem of 19th century India, when the British used to rule us. So he has to understand the British policy, how to get his documents. So he has to apply for us. We'll see whether it's worth going, visiting there or not. He or she as a scholar has to mention the kind of documents which has to see. And then if it's approved by the experts, then we provide them money. They can go for a month or so. We pay that airfare, maintenance, the local maintenance charge, things like that. Then also we encourage scholars to go abroad to attend seminars, because naturally, academics got to exchange opinions, ideas. And so we also provide funding for those scholars in India who want to go abroad. So again, they have to follow a procedure. We invite applications. They have to send us a copy of the paper, and we send it to some experts. They will say, okay, this is worth a presentation, and then we give money for that. Plus local India all over, I told you, we also provide money for holding seminars. So it's a lot of work actually, but funding is shrinking. So always there's a problem. So we can't work to the extent one thought one could, but still it's doing a good job. Fine. Thank you. Next.
Yes, yes, Ji.
Is it okay? Is it clear?
This is very clear. This is very elaborate, clear, and this will be very helpful to the budding research scholars from the discipline of history. Definitely. Thank you, Ji. Then, how can we make our younger generation aware about the contributions of our great leaders? You also discussed about some other occasions about that the younger generation students should know our great leaders, especially during freedom struggle, even after that.
Yes.
So like that.
Now, that is also my interest. All of us, you have grown up with Amar Chitra Katha kind of thing, isn't it? All, and states, government, whatever you come from, Tamil Nadu or Rajasthan or Bengal, all kinds of books on the great people of India. Now, this is not our responsibility. Children, we can't access the children. That job is left to those who write school textbook. Either NCERT has to write better books, or the state school boards. So that is prime. Plus, of course, one can always write books, and we can fund them. But this is not a job specific to the ICHR. School children are not our, say, jurisdiction. It is, but this is very important. This is important, you see, because only if we encourage scholars who are working on freedom movement, neglected heroes. There are a lot of people you don't know. People are not told. People are told only about 3, 4, 5 names. The entire history of revolutionaries are not taught. Which Chidambaram Pillai? Who knows about that? No one knows. Wo Subramaniam Bharati? No one knows. Even Bankim you may know 1 or 2 lines. He wrote Anandamath. That's all. But people don't know. And emphasis only on 2, 3 names. I don't want to mention these names. Only 2, 3 names are there, as if they are the only people who were born in India who fought for India. So here ICHR has a say supporting role. the basic information to the children, say even 4 5 class, at the age of 4 5 onwards, like we teach Ramayana Mahabharata, isn't it? People normally, our families, people grow up with Ramayana Mahabharata from Dadaji, Dadi, Chachi. We grow up, people go like that. So it is at this stage, a little beyond that, people have to be told about the revolutionaries, the freedom fighters, heroes from medieval times, Rana Pratap, Rana Sangha, to Subhash Chandra Bose or Khudiram Bose or whatever, Bhagat Singh. So what can ICHR do is that if ICHR promotes this kind of research, then this will be an incentive to younger scholars to work. Look, this kind of research is going on in ICHR, apex body. So there's a field for it. So let's also write for younger people. So if higher bodies, higher academic institutions, they can do some concrete good work, this will naturally reflect on the working style, capacity of the younger scholars. So, but this is very important. And this, I think, when NEP is implemented, if it's properly implemented, this must get high priority. Absolutely unbiased. All parts of India have contributed to national reawakening, freedom movement. Some states contributed more, some places little less. So that must be taught. And we should be very, very unbiased. And this is the job of a very sensitive man, very unbiased man. No, I would not pick up this man because this may not be liked by government. Government likes some people. फिर काम नहीं चलेगा. Because we have to tell our younger people that we are Indians, we are Bharatiyas, we love our country. This is our heritage. So every field, not freedom movement also, what our ancient Indian scholars did in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, these are all important things which should be highlighted, which should be taught. And younger we teach them, better it is for us. Okay?
True, Professor. True. Very valid point, and rightly you said. And in addition to that, India has a very rich ancient knowledge system.
Yeah.
So again, I would like to ask the similar question, though it is in the purview of school education. But as a historian, as an academician, we would like to know from you, how can we inculcate India's rich ancient knowledge system in our textbooks?
Yeah. Actually, ICHR has a special project on history and science and technology, and work is going on there. So that is already started. But this is a massive work. It's a massive material in, say, foreign archives, Lisbon, Portugal, Madrid, Britain. Lots of documents, manuscripts are there on various aspects of Indian knowledge system, mathematics, astronomy, medicine. So some work has started, but this work must be further encouraged. We need people, because some of the documents are, as I said, in Portuguese language, maybe Spanish, maybe Dutch, maybe French. So we need good scholars who know these languages and who are conversant with subject. And we have started, but it can be done by other bodies also. It can be done by other academic bodies. ICSRC is there, University Grant Commission is there. Culture Ministry has a lot of funding for promoting research. ICSR, the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, that also can promote this. So, but you see, everything important is the people who do this work. Very honest job has to be done to selecting scholars who are good, or scholars who can be groomed. You see, everyone doesn't become scholars at the age of 20 or 30. So you have to spot the talent. So, okay, this boy, this girl has a potential. And then groom her, take some funding, do some research, mentor him well. So every stage, sincerity is needed. Sincerity, honesty of purpose is needed. Because we need ultimately good human material. So there, it should be unbiased and very, very objective. Selection criteria should be very, very scientific, rigorous. तुम्हें ये काम करना है, क्वालिफिकेशन है ये नहीं, तुम्हारी एबिलिटी इतना है, कर पाओगे नहीं करेंगे, हम देखते हैं. So like this, evaluation, constant, good, objective selection, evaluation has to go on. You see, the point is our total, don't mind, we have lots of bright students all over. All those Indian students who go abroad do very well, shine in every field, But after C.V. Raman, no Indian based in India has got a Nobel Prize in Science. And that's British time. And your story, how C.V. Raman got a Nobel Prize. He was basically an accounts officer, accounts officer. He was posted in Calcutta. And then another Ashutosh Mukherjee, Sir Ashutosh, who was the father of Shama Prasad Mukherjee, founder of Jansangh, he was a vice chancellor, very famous vice chancellor. He was a great mathematician and a legal mind. So Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee spotted him. Who is this man, the Tilak South Indian boy? He called him one day. Say, I'm Raman from Madras. I'm an accounts officer. But how I do come here? He said, I have interest in research, physics. I come to the Calcutta library. He spoke to him for some time. He said, no, fine. He appointed him a chair, Khaira Professor of Physics in Calcutta University. And then he becomes the first Nobel Prize Indian. And first and last, just think of it. All those Indians who got Nobel Prize in Science after that, they are based in England, America. Khurana ji, Hargobind Khurana, Chandrasekhar, they're all sit. So why this happens? This is a very important question. Why we can't produce original minds? Why they don't want to study in India? Because we don't encourage them. A lot of bureaucracy, red tapeism is there. Then our people, they don't want real talent to grow. The politics at every level. So why talented people, why they should suffer? So you see, in Japan, Australia, what population they have? They have more Nobel Prizes in science than we have. You have no one. Raman, more than 100 years back. This is something very serious. Very something serious. We should be ashamed of it as a nation. Okay. Sorry. Because these are real issues. We should ponder. Our policymakers should ponder.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Anyway.
Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor. You very well connected with our ancient knowledge and the Sir C.V. Raman and current situation, current state of everything. You well connected, articulated discussion.
No.
Thank you so much,
Professor. This is our job. Yes, tell me.
Then, in continuation of the earlier discussion, I would like to ask. Yeah, you already told what is the situation now. History books, how many leaders are acknowledged. Their contribution is given to in the books like that. So, in continuation of that, how would the Bharatiyakaran of history be initiated in India?
How? Pardon? Repeat. Could you repeat?
How would the Bharatiyakaran of history be initiated?
I could say
Indianization of history. The same thing. I am putting in a different.
No, it's not that simple. Is true. It is good that and desirable that Indian students, should know more and more about our history. That is good. No problem with that. So, and this is being done, but we cannot cut ourselves off from the rest of the world. That is very important. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor. Yes, Professor.
No, Indian history is fine. You teach them about Pataliputra, Maurya, Ashoka, all right.
Okay.
Very important. So those gaps have to be filled up. But at the same time, we are global citizens. And India was known for this. We are not basically Kup Manduk. We are not. Our ancient university is Nalanda. When Nalanda functioned, no Oxford was there, no Cambridge was there, no Harvard was there. Nalanda was there, Takshila was there, these ancient universities. And people from all over the world. China, you read the story of Chinese pilgrims. My God, what effort they made those days, traveling thousands of miles over snow-peaked mountains on a mule, on a horse. Thousands of miles they would trek to come to study in India. Indian scholars since also went to various parts to Tibet, China, Japan. So the point is that it's a global citizens, and exchange of information is very, very important. Now, science and technology, we are lagging behind. We may produce good engineers, maybe producing good scientists, but these are all interconnected. So there should not be any narrow-minded is this. We must absorb the best from anywhere in the world. So
Okay.
India is fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we should not neglect India. It's very important. You see, we quote Aurobindo all the time, isn't it? One of the biggest minds.
Yes.
Isn't every discourse Sri Aurobindo is there? Real.
Yes.
Such a great
Yes, Professor.
mind, such a creative mind, such a nationalist, such a revolutionary, such a spiritual man. No one comes near him. But Sri Aurobindo, what happened? He was sent to England at the age of 7 by his father. 3 of his brothers were sent to England that he should not study in India. He should not grow up with Indians. He should be a fine Englishman, should get into ICS. 7 years without break. Those days, traveling was not easy. Now people come and fly 8 hours, 10 hours. No. A ship will take more than 2 months to go to England. 7 years he stayed there without break. His father wanted him to join Indian civil service, most prestigious government service anywhere in the world. But then when he grew up, he said, my God, why am I going to serve the British? This is my heritage, and becomes what? The greatest minds. So he studied in England. He's a bright student. He used to score very high marks in Latin, Greek. He got a rank in ICS also. But then he said, no, this is my route is this. My route is Veda Upanishad. And it becomes one of the greatest mind. Have you read? I mean, surely you read something, you know.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Professor.
they're
Yes,
not
you
cut
are
off. They're not cut off. And every important Indian that you study, Dadabhai Naoroji, who is a father figure of Indian nationalism, he was a member of British Parliament, first non-British to get elected to the British Parliament, 1893, those days. So, I mean, you pick up any 10, 15 names from any part of India, top leaders,
Okay.
top
Okay.
leaders, any field, politics, literature, science, all of them had studied abroad. England mainly those days, isn't it? Sir J.C. Bose, Sir Prafulla Chandra Ray, all these top scientists who didn't get a Nobel is a different thing, but they're towering personalities. They all studied there, but they came back. Prafulla Chandra Ray,
Fine. Amazing. Okay.
chemistry professor, outstanding. He wrote a book called History of Hindu Chemistry. Hindu chemistry, such a great man. He's a great nationalist. He was a bachelor. He was a very nationalist. He's used to secretly help the revolutions, Calcutta, and did so much. He had a degree from abroad, England, Edinburgh. But he wrote a book called Hindu Chemistry. Now, can somebody write History of Hindu Physics? They said, my God, ye Hindu hai, ye fanatic hai, communal, write that. No one had the guts to say that kind of thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
K.P. Jaiswal is a historian of Patna. We studied him. He wrote a book called History of Hindu Polity. Right, Hindu. Nothing to be ashamed of. Why? We have so much to contribute. Now we are hiding our basic identity. मत बोलो हिंदू हिंदू मत करो, secular बन जाओ. ये क्या है? क्या बकवास है? ऐसा करने से हमारा our identity is this, and you're proud of that. You're not aggressive. You're open. We are liberal. This is our tradition. Okay.
Amazing, amazing to know the various personalities and their background and their success, Professor. And you are telling that the roots should be strong, at the same time global knowledge, both mixing together, it will give success.
Even history,
Thank
for
you.
that matter. History is I'm a nationalist, as you know. I worked for the Ajitha movement also. One of the few historians, actives who was busy at that time, who was actively involved. But I tell you that, sorry, I was not getting the point. I was telling about.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'll tell you that, you see, without good textbooks, we can't produce a good mind. And knowledge should be open. No national restrictions. Okay, we won't allow somebody to be taught against India, our culture. That is fine. But there should be reasonable argument. reasonable debate. Dialogue process has to go on. This is our tradition. This is Hindu tradition. We don't oppose dialogue. We accept self-criticism also. But at the same time, we are open. And that is how a mind grows to its fullest potential. That must happen. That must go on.
Fine, fine. So with this preliminary discussions, now we will move to NEP 2020. How do you think that NEP 2020 can transform the historical research in India?
Now, see, the NEP looks very good on paper. I have no objection to it. But the real test will be done after 2 or 3 years. It should be implemented first. We must see the fruits of this. Otherwise, most of the issues are very fine. Language, mother tongue, interdisciplinary, MPhil has been dropped, all kinds of nice things are there. But how it is implemented and who are the people who will implement this, that is important. So I can give you a proper answer to this if I'm alive only after 2 or 3 years, not now. It will be too premature because I'm saying in principle it is fine. I have written support of it. ICHR, my chairman asked for a report, I gave a report, I said very fine. So no problem. But you see now, a couple of things, if you since ask me. Now teaching in mother tongue, suppose Tamil boy is studying in Bhopal. He wants Tamil language to be taught. Can he get that facility? Or a Bengali speaking boy lives in Kerala. He wants to study in Bengali. Can you provide that? I don't think so. It's not so easy. The thousands of teaching jobs are lying vacant right now in India, central universities, more than 6,000. They've not been filled up. I don't know why. Maybe funding shortage, rules, regulations, lack of qualified candidate. So can you find a Tamil teacher to teach, say, 2 Tamil students Bhopal? Can you find it? No.
Challenging, very challenging process.
So fine, that will be good. That will be good. But can you do it? So there were logistical problems.
Maybe this opportunity we got through lockdown, that is online opportunity, maybe explore.
Maybe right. That is an way. That is an alternative one can think of. This is good. Actually, mother tongue teaching through mother tongue at the early level is very good because the capacity of the child to pick up language is very, very good at that stage. And in India, you see, all of us know at least 2-3 languages: Hindi, English, plus mother tongue, maybe 1 or 2 more. So most of us speak 3 languages at least. Maybe English is 4, but Hindi or some mother tongue, Tamil, Bengali, or Gujarati, it should be good. That is important. And then no drastic change should be done about the teaching of at highest level because we don't have textbook. We can't say, okay, no, local will introduce, say, Hindi in IIT. You just can't do it unless you have a textbook in Hindi or teachers qualified to teach in that subject. Subject content is very important. You see, one good thing I have found is this National Institute for Translation. NEP has provision for that. That is very good. Translation is very good, but if it's properly done. Because key is textbooks. Whether it's engineering, IIT, or civics in class 6, textbooks written by real good trained scholars and teachers. Teaching quality is very good. But that is very important. Good teachers, they can't do other things. So people don't care for them. So teaching is key actually. Teaching textbook, material usage. See, earlier, tell me. Yes, tell me.
No, this, you explained about the teaching, the research also. The NEP 2020 has given more emphasis on outstanding research. My question is, how can the history academicians be prepared to take up such outstanding research in the coming days?
I know I have to deal with these things. about 15, 20 years back, I was a member of the Indian Council of Social Research that deals with the rest of the social subjects, as you know, right from economics, political science, sociology. 12 subjects are dealt by ICSR. It's a bigger institution. As research, I was a member for 2 terms there, so I have dealt with this problem. There are so many research institutions. Every state you have around 2 research institutions. Heavy funding also. You get a lot of funding from abroad also. But again, the problem is good quality research. Actually, if you don't, one shouldn't mind saying so. Our quality of research in social science is very poor. Then PhDs, doctoral thesis that you see, except few universities, standard is very poor. Standard is very poor. Sometimes I return the PhD thesis. I say I can look through it. If I reject it, somebody's career will be ruined. I said I can't do it, but I can't pass it like that. So I said, sir, वापस कर दीजिए, मैं वापस कर देता हूँ. Quality is very poor, and I mean I can't tell this. I mean it's very pathetic.
Yes, yes. Understood, Professor.
Yes.
This is the reality, but our question, we would like to know from a person like you, as an experienced person in your domain area. So what can we do? What can we do? How to prepare the academicians, researchers to go to the next level of research, which will give outstanding research in the coming days?
Yes.
Roadmap.
We must encourage the students, teachers to do more serious reading. Serious reading. They should be familiar with the latest writings on the subject. Any Japan, Australia, England, America, there's so many journals, so many good scholars. The scholar must keep in touch with the latest writing on the subject. We can't say, no, I'll only read books written by my friend or my teacher's friend who is teaching ABC. No, that is not the standard. You must be exposed to the best of the literature subject. Then those who are educational administrators, those who are funding, those who are selecting scholars, they also must be very, very honest, rigorous. We have some minimum standard. We want our scholars to fulfill this standard. Otherwise, things will fall further. Things are falling further. Things are falling. Every day I can see that. I tell you, 15, 20 years back, ICSR, I used to travel all over India, all over. I was horrified. I was younger. Now this is my 6th year in ICHR. I'm saying I'm not very happy with the most of the research that are done. Very poor quality. But since that's the only thing we have, so you have to fund them. Okay, publishing book, I know this is not a very standard, but okay, that is the best so far we get. And there are many things which I can talk openly here, but you see, because people have vested interest. There's a thing called water seeks its own level, isn't it? Water seeks its own level. So if the general level is going down, so people who control it also, unfortunately, have that level. So they also prefer people who are not very good because they themselves are not good. I mean, put it as bluntly as that. And so this is the responsibility of the key persons controlling higher education in India. They must be thoroughly academic. They must be also good human beings. Because unless you're a good human being, you can't be honest. So that basic honesty has to be there. But you're spending so much of money. You're producing books. We are producing research. This is what gives shapes to the nation. This is what shapes the mindset. So no compromise. We must have the best of the people. India, what happens? Best of the people are not selected. Best of the men, people have no opportunity to grow in India. You have to follow certain lines. Social science history, so far the rule was you follow certain lines only. This is the line, official line. And only when NEP is implemented, I said after 2, 3 years, 5 years, one can assess what good it has done, whether it has done any good at all, or whether we remain where we are.
Yes, Professor.
But let's be hopeful. You see, I mean, especially, I mean, we must be very optimistic. We must be.
Yes, yes.
We hope
Of course.
it
Of
promises
course.
good things.
Yes.
So why should I
Yes.
expect bad things only? We expect good things and hope the authorities will have right people at the right place. They'll be more objective. They'll be fair. They'll be more academic. You see, problem arises. There's so many, non-academic considerations in appointment, fellowships, grants, and that's why you can't produce good minds. You see, I mean, I'm a nationalist. I told you, I don't mind who calls me what, but why? All our great people were born in British time. Bunkim was born in British time, isn't it? Why?
We have,
So,
we have to research it. We have to research it.
Tilak was born in
Very.
British time. Why we have not produced anyone of the stature now? Why you don't produce, as I said, C.V. Raman or J.C. Bose now? So this is our problem. Something has gone very wrong since Panditji's time. Kind of people Nehru used to appoint education ministers. So let's hope it will change.
Thank you, Professor. Then we'd like to move to the multidisciplinary aspect emphasized in the NEP 2020.
Yeah.
My question is, given the fact that research is going to be multidisciplinary as per NEP 2020, what would be the research agenda in the discipline of history?
This sounds very fine. Interdisciplinary research. This is very good. Sounds fine, and this is very often seen in European academic circles. America, North America, there are very outstanding scholars who have worked on this kind of thing. And India, you have to encourage it. But again, the basic problem, you must encourage people who have that inclination, who have that qualification, if they are well trained or not. That's it. Only if they are well trained, then they can train another generation of scholars. So number one, I repeat, principle is fine. This is very international approach. If this is properly done, this will yield good results. So I'm all for it. But again, basic key is the same. We must have the right kind of scholars, right kind of guidelines. Look, this is the guidelines. What you mean by interdisciplinary study? So define, okay, so subject A in history, subject C in economics, subject D in political science. These are subjects. So the scholars, the head of the institution, the research guide, the mentor, they have to sit down. They would talk about it, thrash out, look, if interdisciplinary approach would mean this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you do it? What kind of academic, intellectual tools we have? Are you prepared for that? So this must be thrashed out. I mean, just picking up few things, do a Google search, few things, few passages here and there, and make it look like something very exotic won't work. You see, I still feel textbooks are very, very important. No, we don't have that kind of textbooks in India. We don't have that kind of textbook in India. We don't have. Sorry, I have taught history for more than 40 years, North Campus, Delhi University, postgraduate classes. My honor students have been speaking here and there. So, and I've seen only those students are really good who have their widest possible reading habit, just a subject, just not. You see, I mean, say one name I always mention is Fernand Braudel. He's a French historian. He studied the history of Mediterranean region. Mediterranean Seas, Europe, South America. He studied the history of that region. It's a classic work which incorporates political history, geography, economy, society. So this is called real interdisciplinary work. And when he died, I remember I was in England and the obituary written by him, Times, the first line starts with that. Unfortunately, there's no Nobel Prize in history, but if there's a Nobel Prize in history, Fernand Braudel should have been the first recipient of that. So it is that kind of work. It's genuinely interdisciplinary. He's writing on Mediterranean, but right kind of emphasis on geography, details of history, social habits, economy. Fantastic, like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hope in the coming days, multidisciplinary research will take place in India also.
Surely, it is taking place. Before 1947, people have done some work on it. Radha Kamal Mukherjee, they did it. Good work. Radha Kamal Mukherjee, they did some work on that, interdisciplinary. People have done. Yes.
Fine, Professor. Fine. Then, Professor, in the NEP, it is mentioned about
just no, it is fully charged up, so I got to switch it off. No, okay. Yeah.
Internationalization, it is mentioned in the NEP. So under the initiative of internationalization in NEP 2020, there will be international students to join various Indian courses and programs. Like Ayush and what are the strength of India, like that it is mentioned in the policy.
Yeah.
So how can India attract them? How the education institutions can prepare themselves to attract foreign students? That is the question.
This is nothing new for India. As I told you that thousands of years back,
true.
people, foreigners used to.
But the current generation need to know that.
Even now, some foreigners, mainly South Asian, Thailand, Japan, Korea, they come to India for studies in Buddhism, subjects like that, Buddhist studies. And few sprinkling of scholars from other parts of the world also coming. But because one thing is that higher education is very cheap. Fees payable is very low, isn't it? So it's compared to what a student has to pay in England and North America. So that's one reason. And some of the institutions really provide class international level education, no doubt about that. A lot of IITs, management school, even Delhi University, some departments like that. It used to be a world class in some places. So now you see, education, people will take the trouble of coming to India only if we have a reputation. We have built up first reputation as academic institutions. And so this is one thing. Secondly, our government should provide more scholarships. Now government of India provides scholarship. ICSR provides scholarship to students in neighboring countries, Africa, Sri Lanka, or Bangladesh. Okay. But so to give quality education to real good scholars from abroad, our attainments, our reputation should be above board. Only if, hello?
Yes, Professor.
Only if our standard is good, and let's hope things will improve, we can get to see more and more scholars. Teachers also you can get from abroad. A lot of Indians go abroad to teach. That is also fine. And once in a while, some teachers from abroad, they come and teach here also. But that scale, that number has to grow. More and more students, more and more teachers. Yes. Can be done, but everything depends on quality.
Okay. Thank you. Finally, we would like to hear from you. What are your suggestions for the better implementation of National Education Policy 2020?
Yeah. So I'm not touching schools. I'm touching higher education beyond school. Undergraduate, postgraduate. First thing is syllabus must be updated. Curriculum, academic curricula must be updated. Which is pathetic, I must say. It's very poor quality. What we have, no change in that, because education policy is coming after so many years. Now, last one was in 1986. So this is a welcome step, some policy statement there. First is syllabus has to be drastically overhauled. So that is one. it should be at par with some of the best universities in the world. Then,
Okay.
secondly, we must be open to use the idea of textbooks from all over the world. No compromise in that. Because I see personally, I have learned, I have enjoyed reading British history. I used to teach British history for a long, long time. I find some of the textbooks in British history fascinating, very fascinating, very high standard. So textbooks are very important. And teacher education, even I think those who are teaching in university colleges, they also should be, they should be sent to summer school, workshops, things like that very often. So everywhere, the quality must be assessed, evaluated in terms of publications, in terms of lectures. Even lectures should be not evaluated. भाई जो पढ़ा रहा हो कोई फायदा हो रहा है कि नहीं, कोई ऐसे ही बोल रहा हो क्लास में जाता हो सुनता नहीं सुनता है. Attendance is very important. You see, a lot of rural areas, schools, colleges, I don't know, teachers, most of the time teachers are not there. This happens Delhi also. Delhi University also, some colleges, teachers don't go to class. So I think overall improvement in the quality, syllabus, textbooks, teachers necessary. To all this, to accomplish all these things, we need good people at the top, and that is the most difficult things. People who mostly come to the top, and they are always a very doubtful quality. I'm very sorry, I have seen all my life, very few people of good quality are at the top. I can't say more,
Very
but
sad.
offline I can tell you something more about that. I can give specific cases. Who is what?
Thank you. Thank
Vice
you.
Chancellor, Chairman, what kind of qualification they have. Okay, anyway, it's a different story. But let's be hopeful. Your young people, all you, Anish, all young
Yes,
people, and
yes.
we expect a lot from your generation actually. You have a big responsibility.
Yes.
Big, very big
Yeah,
responsibility.
as you mentioned, the human resources are the key to implement the policy,
Yeah.
and manpower is very essential.
That is depends on what
So-
you are reading, what reading material you have, quality of that, how you are examined, assessment. These are important things. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor, for your wonderful explanation, discussion,
I don't know
and your
if I had
valuable time also.
No, fine. Thank you so much. So kind of you invited me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Over to Dr. Anish ji.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Such an insightful interview.
Really? I don't know it.
From your busy schedule, extremely busy schedule, I must say.
मैं कुछ लिख ही रहा था. Very busy editing चल रहा है कुछ यहाँ seminar.
Yes, sir. I also would like to thank Dr.
Surely.
Nagalingam ji for this. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.